Welcome back to Newsmax Now. Let's take a quick look at some of the highlights from the candidate speeches last night.
We have Democrats coming over, very importantly. We have independents coming over, and they haven't done that ever, probably ever. And with all of these people coming over, we're going to have something very, very special.
So here we are. It always comes down to Florida, doesn't it? And it will again this year, not once but twice. Not once but twice we'll have to decide the presidency here, but it starts a week from tonight.
I want to thank Paul Ryan. He called me a couple of days ago. He could not have been nicer. He was very encouraging, and I have great respect for Paul Ryan. Great respect.
The home court advantage is coming north, and next week we are going to win the state of Ohio, and it'll be a
I need your help next Tuesday, because we're not just going to win the Florida primary. We are going to win Florida in November, and we are going to turn this country around.
I don't know what he means by we, Miranda. We'll see. Time will tell. Let's welcome in today's guest, Ron Christie, CEO of Christie Strategies and the former legislative director of the House Budget Committee under John Kasich. We also with us Matt Towery. He's a pollster and CEO of InsiderAdvantage, as well as a syndicated columnist. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Nice to be with you.
Happy to be with you.
All right, we're going to try to take a look at some of these exit polls from last night to see if there's anything that they can tell us, not just about or whatever you want to call next week, Super Duper Tuesday.
Super Duper Tuesday.
We're not going to call it Super Duper Tuesday for all intents and purposes. And maybe if there's anything in these exit polls that tells us something about the general election. We're going to start in Michigan. Michigan did go for Barack Obama in 2012. Now, according to the CNN exit poll, over 50% of Michigan Republican primary voters are dissatisfied with the federal government. 32% say they are angry with the federal government. Only 8% say they are satisfied. Only 2% say they are enthusiastic about the government. Now, we looked at Donald Trump last night. He easily won Michigan. What does that exit poll tell us about what we can expect further down the road from other Midwestern states, namely Ohio, and potentially about Michigan in the general election? Matt, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, Ohio is a little bit different for the primary season because, first of all, John Kasich, although he may not get the nomination, certainly appears to be the adult on the stage in these debates. So I expect that the anger that people feel about the government in general won't necessarily be taken out on their governor. I expect John Kasich, I think he will win Ohio. Trump may give him a run for his money, but in the end, I think he'll win that. As far as overall, the Midwest and the like, we're pretty much seeing the same thing in every poll. It doesn't matter whether it's Massachusetts or the Midwest or the South. You have this high degree of anger towards the government and a great degree of dislike for the establishment, for people who they view as part of the federal government or part of whoever, quote, controls their life. And we're seeing that come out in the polling. I mean, here in Florida, where I'm polling for the Fox affiliates, the numbers are just, for Trump, have been building daily. And a lot of that, quite frankly, is off of Mitt Romney's robocalls, which people are having a revulsion over.
Nobody wants Mitt Romney in their voicemail box, apparently, for a Republican voter.
Literally, anecdotally, but also the polling, I ran into a neighbor of mine down here today who said he was going to vote one way. He got a phone call from Mitt Romney, and all his golfing buddies said they were furious about it. So whoever came up with this idea was an idiot.
Well, I want to bring Ron in here. Ron, you're obviously a surrogate for John Kasich. This race in Ohio, a bit closer than I'm sure the campaign would like it to be. But when you see those angry and dissatisfied numbers, are you guys concerned about the way things may go in Ohio?
No. Governor Kasich, when he came into office in Ohio, employment was over 9%. Now it's down to 5.2%. They had a significant problem in the state of Ohio. They had an $8 billion budget deficit. Now you have a $2 billion surplus. So I think when you look at Governor Kasich and his position in his own home state, I don't think that the anger is going to be directed at him because he actually turned things around. But I'll tell you this, the one state that I look at, and when you look at voter dissatisfaction and voter anger, was Massachusetts the other week. Massachusetts, you had nearly 20,000 Democrats. You had about 15,000 who were unenrolled Democrats, and you had about 3,500 Democrats who switched outright to vote for the Republican ticket so they could vote for Donald Trump. 20,000 Democrats switching over to vote for Donald Trump means this insurgency is real, and people are legitimately angry at the federal government.
Yeah, there's been a lot of folks who have already voted in Florida as well, and I know Florida is a closed primary system. I'm not exactly certain with Ohio, but there is this impact, there's this effect that Trump is having with new voters coming out to the polls, new people donating to Trump's campaign, and energizing the base, at least in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, are you concerned at all, Ron, when it comes to Kasich? I mean, even if he wins Ohio, and even though a lot of polls have showed that he's gaining momentum, are you concerned at all that it won't be enough for him to survive this race?
No, Miranda. I think when you look at the situation that Governor Kasich's in, he needs to win his own state. He needs to show the viability that he can remain in this contest. I think if Senator Rubio should lose in Florida, there's no viable path for him to move forward. If Governor Kasich, on the other hand, wins in Ohio and Mr. Trump wins in Florida, Trump would need 59% of the remaining contest to swing his way. Thus far, he's only received 44% of the vote as opposed to 59%. I don't think that he can do it. I think that we then would get into a potential situation where you would have a contested convention, and then, of course, the home son might be in a better position to win this thing outright.
All right, gentlemen, stick around. We got more exit polls we want to talk about. We're going to take a swing through the Southland and what we learned from Mississippi last night. Ron, Christie, Matt Towery are going to stick around for us. And we want to remind everybody to make sure you're tuning in this Saturday morning. We're going to be live in Miami. 99 delegates at stake. Battleground Saturday, a special live Newsmax TV event. You will not want to miss it.
Welcome back to Newsmax Now. We want to welcome back our guest, Ron Christie, CEO of Christie Strategies and the former legislative director of the House Budget Committee under John Kasich. We also have with us Matt Towery. He's a pollster and CEO of InsiderAdvantage, as well as a syndicated columnist. Thank you, gentlemen, for sticking around.
Obviously, gentlemen, big differences between states like Mississippi and Michigan, except for the fact they both voted yesterday in the primary. But let's take a look at Mississippi and a couple exit polls we wanted to get your take on. First, a similar story between actually Mississippi and Michigan when it comes to angry voters. 44% angry, 43% dissatisfied, only 8% satisfied, and just 2% enthusiastic. This, again, is in Michigan. And also, as we look at evangelical voters, they played a huge role in the Mississippi GOP primary last night. ABC News reports that more than 80% of GOP voters there identify themselves as either evangelical or born-again Christian. And again, Donald Trump doing very well in Mississippi. What have we learned, Matt, about evangelicals this election cycle?
Well, we've known it for quite a while, actually, that once you get out of Iowa, where evangelicals really have an influence purely based on religion, and that's it, when you get into the South, the evangelical vote is not quite as unified. They vote on issues that are social issues, but in the end, they tend to be just more conservative. And they also tend to gravitate to candidates who they view as outsiders. I mean, for example, Newt Gingrich won South Carolina in 2012. I mean, Newt at that very week was being attacked by his ex-wife over some crazy stuff, but they voted for him in massive numbers, and he won the evangelical vote there. So I think we're just saying this validated this time. I don't think this is anything new.
Ron, do you agree with that assessment? I heard you laughing a little bit about Matt's trip down memory lane with Newt there.
Yeah, I really have to say, Matt made two excellent points that I want to expand upon. One, I do think that the evangelical vote down in the South is different than Iowa. Iowa seems to be a bit more monolithic. I think that's why Ted Cruz did as well there, and why he's not doing as well in the southern states, because they're looking at him as part of the problem, not part of the solution. Second part I want to make here is that it's surprising to me that Cruz is not doing as well as he thought he would have been doing with the evangelical base. What that tells you once again is that folks are looking at Washington, they're looking at issues, specific issues of concern to them, and saying these politicians aren't fixing it, we're angry, and we want somebody else in there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think a lot of people are surprised because that really is kind of his strong suit, yet Donald Trump appears to be winning there, although they did a poll last night talking about Trump's trustworthiness, and it was split. More than half of the GOP voters in Mississippi say they trust Donald Trump, and only 42% say they don't. And it doesn't seem to matter. Am I right, Matt?
It doesn't seem to matter. You know, the interesting thing is, if John Kasich, who, as I said, is just a great guy in my opinion, and of course I got to know him when I was Newt's chairman, but I don't know him anywhere near as well as Ron does. But if John Kasich should win in Ohio and stay in the race, it actually helps Donald Trump to some extent, because Trump needs to keep this a three-man race. And I think there are enough winner-take-all states out there that he could pull off that win without having to go to a brokered convention. But I might add this. If we go to a brokered convention, then I think someone like a John Kasich stands a great opportunity of being the compromise candidate if we go to a brokered convention. And if he stays in the race. He would have to stay in the race. If he gets out of the race, then he's vanquished with everyone else.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to make this case. I'm surprised why nobody's out there talking about the rules of these conventions, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody to get to the 237 threshold. And those are the rules. If you don't do that, then an open convention is what all these candidates signed up to when they got into the race.
And you think it's unlikely that that's going to happen, right?
I think if the Republican Party really saw this as an option for them, this open convention, that they should have somebody out there explaining that these are the rules that all these guys agreed to when they got into this race. They haven't done that. And so if something does come up, there's going to be people very upset, especially the Trump supporters. Just
no question about that.
My take. All right, gentlemen, great to talk to you again. I'm sure we'll check back in. And Matt, I can't wait to hear what you come up with for these what's going to take place in Florida next week. Matt Towery, Ron Christie, good to see you guys.
And coming up next, we still want to hear from you. Tweet us your thoughts about last night's primary. Are you happy Donald Trump won 3 out of the 4 contests? Should Marco Rubio drop out before Florida? Can Ted Cruz go the distance? Let us know.